firstly, welcome to New Zealand. Your first trip, I understand.
Yep, first time here,
What do
first
you
time
think
down
so far?
under. And they say down under about Auckland too, or is that
They
just
kind of
Australia?
do, just because we're down under to the whole country, to the whole world, yeah.
Yeah. My first time down, I've you know, in 35 years as an actor, I've traveled just about everywhere in the world, but never been down here before, so I'm happy to be here, happy to be in Auckland, and I love Auckland. I've just been here a couple of days, but you know, it's really a beautiful city. People are nice. The weather changes quite often in one day, you know.
Four seasons, we call it.
Four seasons in one day. It's really true. Yesterday it was raining, and then it was sunshine, and then it was kind of drizzling, and then, you know, I mean, just windy, and then all of a sudden it's beautiful again, and do we go in? Do I take my shirt off? I mean, my jacket off? I didn't know what to do. My cap comes off, my sunglasses off, sunglasses back on, cap back on. Got very confusing for me. But other than that, I think it's a really nice place. Everybody's very friendly.
I'm sorry to do that to you. I'm sorry to do that to you. But yes, we like to give it all in a short burst, then you can move on. Look, I have to say, to give you a bit of a clue, is that I've recently interviewed Julia Roberts. I had more excitement from people in our newsroom about you and my conversation with you and wanting to talk about you than I did about Julia Roberts.
Well, I can't imagine why, because Julia Roberts has had a wonderful career and continues to, and is a big movie star. But maybe, do you have a lot of like kind of 50-ish men who kind of think of themselves as warriors on the road, like tough guy, sort of like, you know, wanted to be cops but ended up in the newsroom type of guys?
Maybe,
yeah, it's probably why you got the excitement.
These were all cool young people who are a massive fan of you. So,
well, that's good to know.
You're going to have fun at Armageddon. Is this your first Armageddon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is my first Armageddon. I hope it's my... I guess it would be my last, yeah.
What are your expectations of crazed fans?
Well, you know, I've never really run across what I would consider a crazed fan. I think that, you know, a lot of times I have people that I meet and they're so excited that they have trouble talking and they shake. And I think it's cute, you know, I think it's kind of fun. I try to put them at ease. But you know, the thing about the film industry is you don't really get a chance to meet your fans. And you're always in a movie set, unlike being in the theater where you're kind of out amongst the people. And it's really kind of nice. It's nice. It's nice to see like how excited people actually get and how much how true fans they are, you know. And I'll have pictures from all your different movies, and just to see people that excited about anything, I think is kind of fun. So it's no matter how crazy they are, I always kind of have fun with it. You know?
There's a chance to meet the legend, Sarah Connor. Taught her son to fight, organize, prepare from when he was a kid, when you were in hiding before the war.
You're talking about things that I haven't done yet in the past tense. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I just directed a movie.
Let's scream at the sound guy. Do you want to do a little rant for us at the sound guy? Go on, I dare you.
I tell you, I turned out to be quite the ranter. I was just a little bit surprised by my own behavior.
Really?
Yeah, I was. You know, because I've worked with a lot of people. I work with Jim Cameron and Michael Bay and William Friedkin, and you know, those are all people that other actors and people in the business have had trouble with, and said, like, you know, they're, you know, a little over the top. And I find myself just like way over the top, you know, because I call it passion, you know. Other people call it just being a jerk, but I can't help myself. I just can't help myself when I'm working on something that, like, see, if it's just my character, and that's all I have to worry about is my character, I can be usually just dealing with the director saying, hey, I don't want to do this, you know, and it's just that little piece of the puzzle that's me, that represents me. But when the whole movie represents me, I want to make sure that it's all right, you know, that, like, that, you know, the costumes are right, and that the, you know, that the sets are right, and the lighting is right, and the sound is right, and it's all. I think it's a kind of a representation of me, and I don't know. I wish I could do it like Ron Howard does it, you know, which is, or Clint Eastwood, which is supposedly very, very calm and, you know, but I can't. I just don't work that way. And I think the people kind of know I'm a big paper lion anyway. I mean, I don't ever fire anybody. I just scream and walk by, and I think they go, oh, there he goes again. All right, you know. So.
You're working and directing on a project at the moment, or have just finished.
That
Is that
was
right?
The Victim. That's the one I'm really.
When did that
talking
finish?
About. Well, right now, when I get back into town, I'm going to do what they call a locked print. I mean, a locked rough cut.
Yep.
So I'll have my rough cut, and then I've got to give it to. I've got to find a composer now because we lost our composer. So I have to find a composer. Then I give it to my sound editor and our post house, who's going to do all the lighting for it, and make sure that all the light and the color is equivalent and looks good. We shot the movie Day for Night, which is a movie. I was doing a movie earlier this year for Xavier Gens, and Xavier directed The Divide, which is a movie which I think is really good, very good. But he did one before that called Frontiers that I saw over in France, that Luc Besson saw, and kind of fell in love with. And it looked great, and a lot of it was at night, and I talked to Xavier about it, and I come to find out he shot a Day for Night. And I didn't realize you could shoot anything Day for Night that would look as good as what he did. So we shot it Day for Night, and so this post house all the shots that look like they're in the day now will all be colorized to make them look like they're at night. So
right.
there's about, when I get back, there's about 6 weeks to do, 6 weeks of work to do, and then we'll be finished.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So directing is the road you're on now?
I don't want to direct, really, to tell you the truth. I like to produce. Actually, Jennifer Blanc, my girlfriend, produced this, like her and a friend of hers, and they really put it together. I mean, she put me together with the money, and she put me together with the script. And the script was a little dodgy, and it needed some work. So I worked on the script and wrote the script, and gave him the story credit, took the writing credit because I did a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
But she did all the producing on it, and it's, it's really, really directing. I think that if I was younger, if I had started younger, I would have maybe stayed in that area. But I'm 54 years old now. If this is successful, maybe we'll do a sequel to it. Maybe I'll direct that. But I kind of like to just put the pieces together and then watch them go do it, and then kind of be like like a mentor and say, well, step in, troubleshoot, that kind of thing. Because it's hard work. I mean, it really is, 16-hour days. And
well, you're the CEO, basically, aren't you? I mean, you really are the...
Yeah, and you're the first one there and the last one to leave, and then when you get home, there's other problems that occur, and it's hard work. And if you're really, I think that if you kind of care about it, then it's hard work. But if you care as much as I do, and I've always cared this much about anything that I've done when it came to acting or my profession, it's a little bit debilitating because you pour yourself into something, and it's tiring. So I like to kind of show up on the set and say, like, "Where's my trailer? Is that big one over there? Good. Okay. What time is lunch? Okay. I'll see you guys. A couple hours, then you'll have me in for makeup.
Nice.
Go in and make a few telephone calls.
Is that what it's like working for someone like Jim Cameron and your Terminator experience? You've been in two of the biggest films of the 80s that have created a cult following and a passion far long beyond when those films actually happened. Did you ever expect that they were going to become such iconic cinematic masterpieces? No. I mean, I knew that Jim was a very, very talented guy, and but so is Billy Friedkin, who I've worked for, and neither Rampage or Jade have, became the type of movies that you're talking about. I mean, even when the Terminator came out, I don't think people realized what they had, and the thing about the Terminator was that, we made it for 6.5. It made $40 million, which is a hit. At the time, it was a hit, but at the same time, like that year, to give you some perspective, The Karate Kid 2 made $90 million. Okay, right.
So it's not like it was like this right away. This huge phenomenon. It wasn't really, and I've always believed that the reason that Terminator did as well as it did. It was the very early 80s, 1983 we made it, and it's right when people started buying their VHSs.
Right.
I think Terminator was one of the first movies that people really started watching VHS with the VHS.
Yep.
And it also there was a love story to it, so girls went to see it. But originally, Arnold Schwarzenegger, at the time, you got to remember, he was not a movie star. You know, he was kind of this big lug who had done, you know, Conan the Barbarian, and people were more likely to joke about him being in front of the camera than respect his talent, which he eventually proved to everybody how much he had, and also with that movie. I mean, it's interesting that in the movie The Terminator, I mean, I give credit to Arnold for this, but you know, it's like I have all the exposition in the movie. I mean, I have to tell the audience like everything that happened in the past, everything that's going to happen in the future. You know, it's called exposition. You know, and from an actor standpoint, it's like, you know, really want exposition. But you know, so I do all the talking, explaining everything to Linda. Jim was smart by doing it in a car chase, so that way it wasn't so boring. But like, I've got like 1,000 lines in that movie, but the one line that everybody remembers is the one line that Arnold had was just, "I'll be back," you know. So I'm like, I have to give it to the guy. I mean, you know, you know, I had my chances, and he said one line, and that's the one that everybody always says. But no, we didn't know. We didn't have any idea. I mean. Aliens, when I saw Aliens, I thought it was a really good movie, but still you don't look back on it and think at that time, oh, there's going to be 3 of these, there's going to be 4 of these, you know. We didn't know anything about franchises back then, really.
Yeah. And how did that feel to go on set for Aliens? I mean, Hicks is, again, a great role and a very strong and a huge part in that film. How did you kind of approach it?
I approached it very differently than every other movie I've ever done, except for one. And that was... I got a telephone call on. The movie had already been cast, and they were already shooting it over in England, and I was not in the movie, and disappointed, but still, I didn't expect to be, you know, in every Jim Cameron movie ever made.
Had you auditioned for it at that point?
No, I didn't audition for it. There was no audition. There was just it was just cast.
Yeah.
And. You know, Jim knew me. I don't think that, you know, Jim would ever actually audition me ever again. But I've met him for projects. I met him for Avatar, and I met him for for Titanic. But I don't think he would audition me per se. But he'd cast somebody else, and there were some problems took place over in England with his actor who was playing that role, and I think there was some immigration issues and so on and so forth. Anyway,
Who was the actor?
His name was James Remar, who is a great actor. He's in 48 Hours. He was in Cotton Club. He is still around. I see him all the time. He's a friend of mine. I've seen him at parties. Nicest guy in the world. And but he had the misfortune to be replaced in that movie, and they needed somebody in a hurry. So Jim had just got done working with me. So Gail Hurd, at the time, his girlfriend, and then we did the... No, at that time they were married. When we were doing the Terminator, girlfriend and boyfriend. Aliens, they were married. The Abyss, they were divorced. So we saw that whole gambit, you know. So she called me and said, do you have a passport that's up to date? And I said, yes. And she said, well, can you be on a plane? I said, yes. And like that following Monday morning, I was on the set in James Remar's wardrobe and shooting. So I didn't have to go through the 2 or 3 weeks of like coming in, wardrobe fittings, all the yakety yak about the characters, all the drilling that they did because we were supposed to be Marines, and so they'd take all the actors out and drill them and do all that number. So I missed all that. Went straight into working and straight into Chelsea and. Glee Place, and we had a real good time over there.
I bet.
Yeah.
God, you would have. God, that's a branding by fire. Straight into it.
Yeah, but it was pretty easy, you know. It was a fun character, and you know, with Jim's movies, there's not a lot of like dialogue, and not a lot of like. I mean, I think with his characters, like they're kind of black and white written, and you bring what you can bring to it, you know. So You know, it wasn't, I didn't think of it as difficult at all. I just, you know, basically thought of it as a great opportunity and a lot of fun, and I got to go to London, and I shot at Pinewood Studios, and they were shooting Revolution there. Al Pacino was walking around, they were shooting A Little Shop of Horrors, and Rick Moranis was there, and Val Kilmer was there shooting Top Secret, and I don't know, it was just this great, I look back and, you know, some of these times that I had shooting in England, and I shot a couple of films over there, and working on Aliens, and working with Jim, actually, it was just a great joy, you know. And I don't know if I appreciated what and who I was working with at the time as much as I could have.
Yeah, well, look, that can be said. It's human nature, isn't it?
I guess so.
Do you have this is putting you on the spot, more fondness for Kyle over Hicks or the other way around? Do you feel more?
No, well, I have a much more fondness for the character that I played in The Terminator. Yeah, because, you know, he was kind of, the character in Hicks was kind of sweet, you know. The character in The Terminator I thought was bruised, you know, troubled, and had a kind of a pit of sadness, you know, in him, you know. So that being able to play somebody who's really troubled as compared to somebody who's, you know, kind of okay, kind of, you know, Hicks is just an okay kind of guy. He's just, you know, but I thought that Kyle was troubled, you know, and the fact that love story, I thought, and the fact that he crossed time, you know, for this woman, I thought it was such a beautiful kind of idea that character between those two. The other one I kind of identify with and I like a lot is Johnny Ringo, which is a character that I played in the Western. And those three characters, there's been a lot of characters, but especially Kyle and Johnny Ringo are the two characters that I really most enjoyed playing because they were both very troubled. And I like playing characters that are troubled. But at the same time, show some redeeming qualities, you know.
Speaking of troubled, and we have a New Zealand connection with Alien 3 with Kiwi director Vincent Ward, who was brought on board, and it was stop. That whole production was seemingly very fraught. And your character was going to play, I think, a much bigger role in Alien 3, and then that all changed. What was your sort of experience of
on Alien 3, the next one?
Yeah, the next one.
Well, I wasn't cast in it. And I was working on another film called, I forget the name of it, but the producer of it was Raffaella De Laurentiis, Dino De Laurentiis' daughter, and she'd been over to Pinewood Studios, and she saw a like body cast in my face and stuff with the Hicks's chest like blown open, you know, like one of the aliens had come out of his chest, you know. And she came back and told me, "Oh, I saw you." She was joking, basically. "I just saw you over in England, you know." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" She explained to me the situation, and I was quite upset. I was upset just because they didn't put me in the third one, and you know, I lived in the second one, and it seemed like a. It's all right. It's no big deal. It's tape, you know. It runs forever, you know. You know. So I was very disappointed they didn't put me in the first. So I talked to my agent, who at the time is a very, very influential guy. He handled. He just passed away, but he handled Mel Gibson, Denzel Washington, Steve Martin, Richard Gere, Liam Neeson. You know. Sam Neill, and just a lot of people. And
excuse me, we're just doing it in cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
And so they basically called Fox and said, you know, you can't use Michael's likeness. And Fox then, you know, wrangled around a little bit with Jim, and then David Fincher, who directed the movie, called me up and said, like, "Oh, come on, can't we please," and so on and so forth. And I was like, "David, you know what? First of all, you didn't put me in the movie. And second of all, you know, here's a character that, you know, you didn't create, but, you know, you're killing off in a way that I don't want him to be killed off. I just don't want it to happen that way. So no, I won't let you do that. No. And you know, David Fincher, he's gone on to be a wonderful director. He's got The Social Network out right now, which is doing very well.
Yeah, it's a great film.
But I felt very strongly with that character, okay, if he dies, he dies. But I just really put my foot down when they were going to show a shot of that character, which I spent a lot of time on, just like laying there with his chest all burst out. So they ended up renegotiating with Fox, and they said that they maybe they could just use a picture of me.
Right.
So I negotiated a deal with them, and they ended up just using a shot of me, and then them saying that we had died on the way back to. But I was really disappointed that they wrote me out of that.
Yeah.
That. I mean, there was no reason to. It didn't seem to me. They could have killed me in the third one. I could have done something heroic in the third one and died or whatever. But just to have me dead on arrival, it didn't seem to make any sense business-wise. And
Or story-wise.
no, it just didn't seem to make any sense. They did the same thing to the little girl, Carrie, too.
they did.
Carrie,
Yeah.
Carrie, yeah.
Now, I thought I'd prepare you a little bit for the fact that you're going to Armageddon, and I can't even begin to imagine what your fans are going to sort of ask of you in terms of quotes from the films, because I wondered whether, is that what fans do? Do they rush up to you and do they say, we want you to say our favourite line from The Terminator? Does that happen?
Not very often.
No.
No.
Do you have a favourite one?
A favorite line from The Terminator?
Yeah. Because you had 1,000 of them, remember?
Right, yeah,
Not just one.
Yeah.
But
No.
Arnie had.
The funny thing about it is that like people always rush up to me from a fan standpoint, and they'll say to me, you know, I'll be back, you know, which of course isn't my line, or they'll say, I'll be your Huckleberry, which was, you know, Val's line, and so I'm always like, yeah. I don't really have any favorite lines, and the thing about it is like the Terminator and Aliens were, you know, 25 years, 30 years ago, you know, so it's a lot of times, I'll write down like on people's, when I'm writing an autograph, I'll write down like "Stay Frosty," which is something that my character Hicks says in Aliens, and I'll write down a lot of times. I think my favorite line in The Terminator is "Come with me if you want to live," which is kind of that with the woman and the whole love story type of thing. So those are kind of, I guess, my favorite lines. Those are the ones that I write down. And then if I do a Tombstone quote, it's always, I want your blood and I want your soul and I want them both right now. You know, that's my favorite. I love that line.
It's awesome. I want that printed on a T-shirt. The Abyss, again, I think it's one of the most underrated films of the 80s. I mean, I loved that film. It was the early 90s. I thought it was fantastic. And a different character for you, because you're not quite as sweet and nice in that one, are you?
Well, you know, the thing, no, I'm not sweet and nice, but I think that what happens with that character and what we tried to portray in the character is that he was sick, you know, more than he was like a bad guy. And he was a long ways down, and he was cut off from his chain of command, and he's basically a soldier, so he's used to getting orders. Okay, what do I do in this situation? Call my commander, they tell me to do it, I head out that way. So he's cut off from his chain of command, he's sick, psychologically he's starting to fall apart, and he's still trying to hold it together, and at the same time he has this group of you know, deep sea oil drillers or whatever that are trying to, you know, convince him that there are little aliens running around underneath the water with no proof, but just like little piece, like a photograph with a little orange thing on it, you know, which doesn't make any sense to me. And so I think that is a guy that I have always thought of as like if I was under there and I thought I was under threat from another country, or our country was under threat from another country, I think I would have done the same thing that he did, which was try to protect the country and not believe that there were little aliens running around underneath there, unless I had proof of them.
That makes sense.
And plus, psychologically, he was just messed up because he was sick, and that again is a good character. It was a great character to play, just because he was a guy who was, you know, I try to play whenever I play an antagonist. I try to play, you know, something about the character that is not just like flat black and white, bad and good, you know. And this is a guy who was flawed, but I think mostly used to just taking orders and used to just going yes sir and marching up the hill. And when he didn't have those orders to take, and he had to take command of the situation and make the decisions, and then under the strain of being sick and psychologically not well, just made the wrong choice. Yeah. So, you know, I don't really think of him as a bad guy.
That's a good description. I feel quite enlightened by listening to that. You
Turned out not to be such a bad guy, didn't
No,
it?
you're absolutely right. You have me convinced. You're also, you know, the Rock's a classic example. You do get picked military, you know, in Navy SEALs. I don't know how many times you've played that role.
A lot.
Do you love those kinds of roles? Did you have any military training as a youth? I mean, you seem to personify it.
No, I don't. I've never had any military training, and you know, I don't know why necessarily I ended up. I usually play cops or guys in the military or DAs, district attorneys, you know, which are usually kind of tough guys, or psychos.
That's an interesting mix.
And sometimes a combination of the two of them. But I've never had any military training, and I think what happened, certainly back, you know, in the 80s and 90s, I think I did get a little bit typecast, and I just think, you know, when they say, oh, you're typecast, you know, it's kind of a cliche, but at the same time, too, I think that people thought military, and they thought, like, okay, well, you know, I mean, the Terminator, I was kind of a military guy. Aliens, I was kind of a military guy. Then I did The Abyss, I was a military guy. And then I did Navy SEALs, and, you know, all of a sudden it's just like, okay, military, oh, Michael Biehn, let's go get Michael Biehn to, you know. And which I didn't mind doing, because there were a lot of good roles, and like the character in The Rock, you know, that was a great role. So, you know, it works well for me. The fact of the matter is I'm just not sure how well I would really do in the military, to tell you the truth.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know, until you're put in a situation where, I guess if I was trained, and once you're trained, you know, I don't know, I just feel like I'd be the kind of guy that'd run the other direction when there's trouble, you know. I just, like, you know, somebody starts shooting at me, I don't know if I'm, like, the kind of guy that would, like, charge the hill, you know. It seems to me like I'd be the guy to keep my head down, like, you know, try to make it home, okay, which is not like Hicks or Kyle or the guy in Navy SEALs, you know.
So you don't consider yourself a tough guy? How would you describe yourself?
Well, I'm certainly not a tough guy. I like to think of myself as a good father, and somebody who enjoys his work, somebody who's like passionate about his work. A little troubled, you know. I've had some problems in the past. I had a serious problem with alcohol for a number of years, which I've overcome. But that was very difficult and ruined a couple of marriages. And you know, probably stunted my, you know, career to a certain degree. But human, you know, I just human like everybody else, but flawed, but at the same time passionate about what I do.
Blu-ray, let's talk about that. Apparently the Aliens trilogy, quadrilogy, is coming out on Blu-ray. Do you know anything about it? Were you part with doing anything with them?
Maybe you can help me out here.
Yes, okay. I'd love to.
First here. I said this is a first. You'll get this first.
Okay.
First from Michael Biehn on this subject of Blu-ray, all right?
Oh,
What exactly is Blu-ray?
look, you're asking the wrong person. I'm asking this question because my two colleagues at work, who you'll meet shortly, are so desperate to know if this is coming out on Blu-ray that they can't sleep at night. I'm no shit. They can't sleep at night.
I don't know. I
don't even know what a Blu-ray player is.
I don't either. I don't.
Sorry.
I really don't. I think it is, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I think it is.
That's
I've
good
heard it is, but you know, I'm not very good when it comes to that kind of stuff. You know?
Okay. That's good. That's a perfect answer to that. If I didn't ask that question, they were going to kill me. You've been fantastic, Michael. You've gone through everything here for me. I had a quick one about Grindhouse. How was your Tarantino experience?
My Tarantino experience was a little bit more of a Robert Rodriguez experience,
Right.
you know, but Quentin was around, and it was fantastic, you know. The most fun I've ever had on the set, because Robert is an amazing personality and generous, and you know, he is so fun to be around because he's so passionate, you know, and he cares so much about his movie making, and he does it in kind of a lighthearted, fun kind of manner, you know, he is, you know, if he's not directing a shot, he's, you know, got his guitar out, he's composing something, or he's got a video camera and he's video camera something, you know, or he is taking photos of something, or he's painting something, or he's just always doing something in a way that is creative. And I mean, technically, as far as shooting stuff goes, you know, he has all his editors on the set, so when you shoot scenes, you'll do different setups, and you'll do like 6 or 8 or 10 different setups, and he'll have his editors edit the scene while you're shooting the scene. And he has an idea in his head how he wants the scenes to be cut, even before when he writes the scene. I think he knows in his head, okay, this is how this scene is going to look, you know. Unlike other directors who show up, and, you know, some do a great job of watching the actors block the scene and then deciding how they're shooting. He knows what he wants and how he's going to shoot it before he shows up on the set. So, so anyway, he'll shoot the scene, and then he'll have his editors edit it while you're shooting it, and then by the time you're done with the scene, he's already got the scene edited, and you can like look at it, and he'll take his iPod, and he's got like 2,000 scores of different, you know, great composers, and he'll pick something and he'll put it underneath, and he'll play the music underneath, and you're basically watching it on the monitor the way that it's a rough cut, but it's basically what you're going to see in the theaters.
Wow.
So I mean, he's really interesting that way. Another thing that he did, which I found was very interesting, is he took the cameras that have the HD cameras that have the squares on the back of the cameras where you can, you know, see the pictures, and he'll walk around the set and he'll take a picture of you, like if we're doing a scene, a picture of me, and then a picture of Jen over there, and then a 3-shot of us, and over the shoulder of me to Jen, and over the shoulder here, and over the shoulder here. And then he'll like take the camera and he'll say, this is what the scene's going to look like, and he'll go back and he'll go through the shots that he took, and it just go click, 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 and you can see the way that he kind of feels the scene's going to cut together, which I've never seen another director do. And Quentin was around because Quentin was working as a second camera operator, and he is an amazingly fun guy to be around. And both of those guys, they just breathe movies. You know, they just love movies, which I love too, you know. But Quentin is immensely talented, but also immensely fun to be around. You know, both of those guys, I mean, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, at times Jim and Friedkin and Michael Bay can be a little bit intimidating, you know, because they're so commanding, and they're so like, you know, we got to get this done. And Quentin and Robert have like a childlike quality to them both about making movies that is like, I don't think they'll ever lose. And Quentin is an encyclopedia of movies, and knows everything in television, and knows everything about every movie ever made. So if you have any questions about anything, and he'll talk and talk and talk about movies. And John Landis, who I've worked with before, is the same way. Great personalities and great film people. But I think Quentin and Robert, it's been my experience working with them, is that they're still like kids in a candy store, you know. They're just like, they've been given the opportunity of a lifetime just to play with what they like to play with, you know. And they're very lucky because of it, but they enjoy it and really make it fun for the people that they work with. It was a great, fun experience. I'd really like to work with. Actually, one of the reasons that I did The Victim was because of Robert, and because of the fact that, you know, of this whole idea of doing a grindhouse movie. And when I got back from doing The Divide, I didn't have anything to do, and I asked Jennifer to hook me up with this guy that she knew that had a very little amount of money, and hooked me up with this guy who had this script that needed some work. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do what Robert said, which is just go make it, you know, because Robert, you know, always tells young filmmakers, just go do it, you know.
Yeah.
Just,
Grab a camera.
Yeah, just grab a camera and go make it. Don't talk about it, don't whatever, just go do it. So that's what I did, you know, and I said to myself, okay, I'm going to make a little grindhouse movie here. I don't have very much money. I've got 11 days to shoot it in. What do I need? I thought, like, okay, grindhouse, exploitive, sex, it's got to be at the top of the list. We have lots of sex in the movie. Dirty cops, yeah, dirty cops. Violence, yes, definitely some violence. A little bit of action, and what else would top it off? Now let's throw a serial killer into it. So that's what The Victim is. And so I kind of owe that to Robert. I've got actually a reference in the movie, The Victim, that of Quentin's. Well, I've got a couple of that. I've got kind of a, I guess you call it, like a nod to Quentin, a nod to Clint Eastwood, who's another of my favorite directors. But in Quentin's, I have a guy who's I had tortured earlier in the movie, and yes, of course, I'm the hero. So there you go. And anyway, he's beating me up. And he says he's beating me up. He says, "Now that's old school. You know, that's the way I interrogate suspects. But you went, and then his friend, who's the other cop in the background, goes medieval." And then that character goes, yeah, like in the movie, you know. So that's in my movie. That's for Quentin. I've got something for Robert too, and it's kind of my nod to say thank you for putting me in your movies and giving me this idea of doing this movie that Jennifer was able to put together, and we were able to shoot in 11 days. We were doing 35 setups a day, and we did it on a budget, let's say.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to having it down here in New Zealand. I hope we get a release down here.
Well, you'll definitely see it, you know. You'll definitely see it. We're very proud of it, and, you know, I think I'm going to get a real good composer, and, you know, we're just very proud of it. And you'll see, you'll see it. I'm not sure that it's a movie that'll end up in movie houses. It would be nice, and we still have a deal to work out with our people that are going to buy the movies, and you know, but you'll see it for sure. People will definitely have a chance to see this movie. It'll get out there.